Part 22. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ryu Xiahua. Chapter 211. At this time, Ding Shanshan and Su Tingro suddenly heard the girls around them talking about envy. This sports car is really beautiful, and the girl driving it is also super beautiful as a girl. I am very moved when I see her. If I were a boy, I would definitely chase her and get close to a rich woman. Chen Yang, don't be crazy about it. In my opinion, this sports car is definitely not bought by that girl. Maybe it was given by her boyfriend. I really want to find a boyfriend like this who can give me a sports car and let me do anything. What if the person who gave you the sports car was an old and ugly old man? Would you be willing to devote yourself to him? Haha, then he is my old baby, and you can call him Godfather. It doesn't matter who you fall in love with in college, but a sports car is something you can only encounter. What you said actually makes sense. I looked at the statistics on the school forum. Among our college students, less than 1 in 10 couples can stay together after 4 years of college. Many break up before graduation, wasting their youth and getting nothing. The girl who just got off the sports car seems to be from our building. I remember that she lives in the first year of the School of Finance. After hearing the words School of Finance, first year, and beauty, Su Tingro and Ding Shanshan subconsciously thought of a possibility. Looking at each other, the two spoke at the same time. Could they be talking about Tingyu? Ding Shanshan nodded. It is likely that she is from the School of Finance and a freshman. I can't think of anyone else except Tingyu. Waxi's sports car is a BMW Z4, not a Porsche. Could this Porsche sports car be a gift from Li Yuan, that scumbag, to Tingyu? That should be it. A strange idea suddenly emerged in Su Tingro's mind. Shanshan, Li Yuan bought a Porsche for Tingyu and a BMW for Waxi. Who do you think he likes more? Ding Shanshan curled her lips and sneered. God knows what this scumbag is thinking. However, Porsche is much more expensive than BMW. This Porsche 911 should be able to buy several BMW Z4s. Tingro, let's go back to the dormitory quickly and ask Tingyu if this car was given to her by Li Yuan. Then tell her the truth about Li Yuan's timing. Su Tingro did not answer, paused, and looked at Ding Shanshan, with a hesitant look. Shanshan, should we tell Tingyu and Waxi the truth, or wait for Waxi and Tingyu to find out by themselves? Ding Shanshan frowned and asked, Tingro, what do you mean? Why don't you tell Tingyu? Are you going to let Li Yuan, this bastard, continue to have timing? Su Tingro shook her head. She was thinking of another question. Shanshan, if we take the initiative to tell Tingyu, what if Tingyu breaks up with Li Yuan because of this? Will she blame us in the future? Ding Shanshan frowned. Why should we blame ourselves for this? Staying away from scumbags is everyone's responsibility. Su Tingro looked helpless. Ding Shanshan was the kind of girl who spoke her mind. Although her academic performance was not bad, she was obviously a novice in terms of feelings. Except for Zhong Tingyu and Bai Waxi, none of the 6 people in their dormitory had ever been in a relationship. Su Tingro had an intuition in her heart that if she took the initiative to tell Zhong Tingyu or Bai Waxi the truth, it would be okay if they both quit and stayed away from Li Yuan. If one of them continued to stay together, the one who quit first might regret it secretly, and even if he didn't say it clearly, he would blame it more or less in his heart. Li Yuan was indeed an out-and-out scumbag, but he was really willing to spend money on Tingyu and Waxi. The little royalties earned from writing books were probably spent on her 2 roommates. If they break up, the sports car and the gifts will all be gone. If it were her, she would probably be sad for a while. Shanshan, think about it again. I think we should consider letting Tingyu and Waxi find out on their own. As long as there is a process of adaptation, they will be more accepting of Li Yuan's timing. They will not do irrational things after great joy or great sorrow. If we take the initiative to bring it up now, Tingyu just stayed out all night with Li Yuan last night, and came back in a sports car today. If she says that nothing happened between her and Li Yuan, do you think it's possible? Ding Shanshan shook her head, impossible. Zhong Tingyu and Li Yuan knew each other when school started. They went out together several times at night, and stayed out all night again last night. A man and a woman were alone in the same room. When dry wood meets fire, it will ignite at once. If he didn't get any benefits, would Li Yuan be so stupid as to spend 1 or 2 million to buy a Porsche sports car for Zhong Tingyu? Don't even think about it. With Li Yuan's own conditions and his generous spending, she really couldn't think of what kind of girl would not fall for him. If it were her, she would fall for him easily. Su Tingro continued to explain, so, if we tell Tingyu now, will it be too much of a blow to her? If something really happens, how can we get along with Tingyu? Ding Shanshan is not stupid, on the contrary, she is very smart. She naturally understood the meaning of Su Tingro's words. The main strategy is a delaying tactic, not to take the initiative to tell Zhong Tingyu and Bai Wuxi, and not to be the villain. Ding Shanshan nodded after a while. She was persuaded by Su Tingro. Tingro, you are right, we will not be the villain. Tingyu and Wuxi are not stupid, let them find out by themselves. As long as Tingyu looks at Wuxi's circle of friends, she will immediately find the problem. As she spoke, Ding Shanshan suddenly felt a little funny. Zhong Tingyu and Bai Wuxi, the two are not only roommates, but also have a good relationship. They have comforted each other's emotional problems. No one would have thought that the two of them became each other's third party without knowing it. It's all because of Li Yuan, the dead scumbag. Let's go back to the dormitory first and see Tingyu. When the two returned to the dormitory, they saw Zhong Tingyu looking at her mobile phone with a smile. Tingyu, what are you laughing at? You are so happy. Ding Shanshan walked over and glanced at Zhong Tingyu's phone. There were pictures of her and Li Yuan, as well as various selfies. Zhong Tingyu did not avoid it, and smiled sweetly and happily. Shanshan, Tingro, you are back. Ding Shanshan deliberately smiled. Well, Tingyu, I just saw a very beautiful Porsche sports car downstairs. Can you guess who it belongs to? Zhong Tingyu nodded shyly, snorted, and replied with a smile, I guess it belongs to a girl named Zhong Tingyu. How about it, are you surprised or not? Ding Shanshan and Su Tingro looked at each other. Even though they knew it downstairs, they were still very shocked and deeply envious when they got Zhong Tingyu's personal confirmation. That is a Porsche sports car worth millions, a lifelong dream. No, they dare not even dream of it. Ding Shanshan smiled secretly, we are not surprised at all. Zhong Tingyu was curious. She drove back a Porsche sports car, and her roommate said that she was not surprised at all. You are really not surprised at all. Ding Shanshan whispered very quietly, if Wei 11 didn't have one too, we would definitely be surprised. Zhong Tingyu looked puzzled. She didn't hear it clearly. Su Tingro smiled and replied, we heard the discussion downstairs, Tingyu, I can guarantee that if you go to our school forum now, there will definitely be topics about you and sports cars. Zhong Tingyu smiled. She felt it when she was driving on the road. And when she drove into the school, the feeling of being watched and envied became even stronger. In terms of coolness and eye-catching, it's still the sports car. That is the dream of every girl. Ding Shanshan asked curiously, Tingyu, did Li Yuan buy this sports car for you? Zhong Tingyu nodded happily. Yeah, I just bought it this afternoon. I wanted to buy a BMW or Mercedes-Benz, but he insisted on buying a Porsche sports car. Tisk tisk, BMW and Mercedes-Benz have become ordinary cars in your mouth, Ding Shanshan joked, very envious in her heart. If any boy in school could buy her a BMW or Mercedes-Benz, she would immediately agree to be his girlfriend. Su Tingro thought about the price of Baiwaxi's BMW Z4 and asked curiously, Tingyu, how much did this Porsche sports car cost? Tell me. All in all, it's about 1.83 million, Zhong Tingyu replied with a smile. When she said this price herself, she still felt unbelievable. That's 1.83 million. She has never seen so much money since she was a child. Even her scumbag father probably doesn't have so much cash on him. Ding Shanshan was shocked and exclaimed, oh my god, he actually spent 1.83 million to buy a sports car. If it were me, Kendi would use it to buy a big house of his own, and he could lie flat for the rest of his life. Su Tingro's beautiful eyes also showed a strange look. This Li Yuan seems to like Tingyu more. The car he gave to Tingyu is much more expensive than the one he gave to Wuxi. Suddenly, she thought that Wuxi seemed to have a house. I wonder if Tingyu has one? Su Tingro asked curiously, Tingyu, has Li Yuan bought a house in Shanghai? Yes, Zhong Tingyu smiled and nodded. She and Li Yuan spent a pleasant night in that house last night. Thinking of this, Zhong Tingyu's cheeks turned slightly red. Although it was painful, she was also very happy for the first time last night, which she will never forget. Su Tingro teased tentatively with a hint of deep meaning, Tingyu, I really envy you. You have a house and a car. Wait until you graduate from college and get married on the spot. Zhong Tingyu's face was shy, and her beautiful eyes blinked. Suddenly, an idea came to her mind, to take Li Yuan to meet her mother. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 212. If she knew she had found such an excellent boyfriend, she would be very happy. Ding Shanshan asked curiously, Tingyu, is the Porsche sports car comfortable to drive? Looking at Su Tingro and Ding Shanshan, two roommates who have a good relationship, they all showed expectation and curiosity. Zhong Tingyu smiled and suggested, Tingro, Shanshan, it's still early, do you want to go for a drive in a sports car? Ding Shanshan and Su Tingro's eyes lit up after hearing this, and they nodded quickly. They have never ridden a sports car since they were so old. Okay, this is a Porsche 911, and it's my first time to ride it. However, this sports car is a two-seater, how can the three of us sit? Su Tingro smiled and said, Tingyu, take Shanshan to try it first. Chapter 150. The mother-in-law looked at her son-in-law deeply, and the more she looked, the more satisfied she was. A high-end private restaurant about 3 or 4 kilometers away from the Feiqiuai mansion community. In a private room, Li Yuan was undergoing political review by Baiwaxi's parents. Facing the inquiry of his cheap mother-in-law, Li Yuan felt helpless and could only briefly introduce his family's situation. In fact, there was nothing to hide. He and Baiwaxi were high school classmates, and she had seen her parents. There was no point in lying. Uncle Bai, Aunt Yang, my hometown is in a town in the northeast of the county. There are 4 people in my family, and my sister just started high school this year. My parents used to work in the northeast, and now they are back to their hometown to build a house. Regarding Li Yuan's family situation, it feels completely different from what Li Yuan said in person and what his daughter guessed. Bai Tiankai squeezed out a smile and suddenly looked at Li Yuan with some new eyes. Li Yuan is not just talented, he can be described as talented. He really started from scratch, without any support from his family. In just 3 or 4 months, he bought a house and a car in the Magic City by himself. This kind of script can be called a great cool text even if it is written in a novel. Yang Jinyu was also very satisfied and breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. She was worried before that Li Yuan's family was a very rich and powerful family, and the economic power was in the hands of the elders in the family. In this case, her daughter would be questioned if she married into the other family in the future. There are many disputes in wealthy families. Her own family, a middle-class family in the Jiangnan area, was already like that, not to mention wealthy families. Being well matched is important at all times. But Li Yuan started from scratch, so the situation is completely different, and there is no need to worry about those situations. In the future, the family will settle in the Magic City and start a new life. Xiao Yuan, Auntie, let me ask you, how much do you earn from writing books now? Yang Jinyu asked curiously. She saw that Li Yuan was very generous with his money, and he was also very generous to his daughter and their couple. He bought a car and a house after only writing for a few months. She was very curious. Bai Tiankai almost spit out the moutai in his mouth after hearing this. Ahem, Jinyu, what are you asking? Xiao Yuan, your Aunt Yang is just talking casually, don't take it to heart. Personal income, can you ask casually? Income is private, and Li Yuan is just his daughter's boyfriend now, not married. Even if they are married, it's not appropriate to ask too much. Although Bai Tiankai was also very curious, he could only hold it back. He didn't expect his wife to be unable to hold back. Li Yuan drank the mutai in the small cup, smacked his lips, and smiled at his embarrassed cheap mother-in-law. I thought to myself, isn't this deliberately giving me a chance to show off? If I don't show off now, when will I? If I can deal with Yang Jinyu, who has some power in front of me, even if the Shuro field happens in the future, Bai Wuxi will be desperate, and my cheap mother-in-law may be able to persuade him. Of course, if there really comes a day, whoever wants to leave can leave. If you want to be a scumbag, you must be aware of being a scumbag. Li Yuan said calmly, Uncle Bai, Aunt Yang, my writing is doing well now, I can make 2 to 3 million a month. He was underestimating. According to his calculations, the revenue from the site and channels in September should be around 400 plus. This is the 50 million transfer fee for the game adaptation copyright that he just sold to Wanji Company a few days ago. What, 2 to 3 million, that's too exaggerated. Is writing so profitable? Hearing that Li Yuan made 2 to 3 million a month, Yang Jinyu exclaimed, widened her eyes, and her body was shaking slightly. Bai Tiankai, who was drunk, dropped the wine glass he was holding on the table with a bang, and picked it up in a panic. His slightly trembling hands proved that he was not calm in his heart. Bai Wuxi smiled like a flower, holding Li Yuan's hand under the table, looking at Li Yuan's profile affectionately. She was very happy in her heart. The better Li Yuan was, the happier she was. Dad, Mom, the book written by Li Yuan is now the #1 online book. It's normal to have this income, don't make a fuss. Yang Jinyu looked at her baby daughter strangely, the tone of her speech was like showing off. 2 or 3 million a month, 2 or 300 million a year, so, my baby daughter, found a multimillionaire with a promising future. Yang Jinyu muttered to herself, and then looked at Li Yuan. She couldn't be more satisfied. Bai Tiankai also took the initiative to pick up moutai and poured a glass for Li Yuan, floating. Xiao Yuan, come on, let us have some more drinks. This private dinner lasted until about 9 o'clock in the evening. Li Yuan and Bai Wuxi's father each drank a bottle of moutai. After 1 pound of Zhongxiang technology, Li Yuan felt a little tipsy, but his consciousness was very clear. If he drank half a pound more, he would probably be able to hold on. But Bai Tiankai had indeed reached the limit, was no longer conscious, and had drunk alcohol once. He was supported by Li Yuan and Bai Wuxi. Seeing that his father was so drunk, Bai Wuxi felt very distressed and advised, Mom, don't stay in the hotel. Come home with us. Yang Jinyu originally wanted to stay in a hotel, but Bai Wuxi was very reluctant to leave and took the initiative to stay. Yang Jinyu didn't drink anymore and frowned. She always felt that there was something wrong with going home with Li Yuan and her daughter. If her daughter hadn't wanted to drive Li Yuan back, she would have wanted her to stay in the hotel with her so that the mother and daughter could have some intimate conversations at night. She said hesitantly, Xiao Yuan, This isn't appropriate. Li Yuan's heart moved and he replied casually, Aunt Yang, what's inappropriate about this? You can come home with us. There is a room available. Bai Wuxi supported the unconscious Bai Tiankai and frowned in distress. Yes, yes, Mom, I have packed up the room at home in advance. My father is drunk like this, and Li Yuan and I are not worried about you and him in the hotel. Yang Jinyu looked at her precious daughter speechlessly. Just now, you turned your elbow outward. A big girl has to go home with her boyfriend in front of her parents. However, Li Yuan did drink a lot, and his daughter did have to drive him back. Okay, Xiao Yuan, then I'll go to your house and chat with you all night. When Li Yuan heard this, he realized that there was something in what he said about his mother-in-law. He understood the implication and patted his chest with a smile. Aunt Yang, that's my Anxiobai's home, please don't go outside. Yang Jinyu smiled even brighter. Return home. Yang Jinyu simply washed Bai Tiankai, helped him to the bed, and whispered to Bai Wuxi in the living room. Li Yuan found an excuse to code words and hid in the study, feeling relieved. He quickly took out his cell phone and replied to Zhong Tingyu, Xiao's Haijin, Zhang Ziyu, and others. Well, I plan to accompany Xiaoyu today, and then go back to my hometown in Shancheng with Haijin tomorrow. Unfortunately, the plan couldn't keep up with the change. Xiaobai's parents suddenly came, and they came as soon as they came. They also knew that I was cheating on their daughter. Still want to see me? Li Yuan murmured in his heart, today is really a thrilling and exciting day. I don't know if Little Moon is angry. After separating from Zhong Tingyu in the afternoon, Zhong Tingyu sent a few messages to report on her situation and told herself to drink less with her friends in the evening. Li Yuan replied, Xiao Yu, are you in the school dormitory? I drank too much at night, so I won't go back. As soon as the message was sent, Zhong Tingyu responded to the message from the other side. Senior, I'm in the dormitory now. Have you eaten? Where are you? Do you want me to drive to pick you up? Li Yuan looked at Zhong Tingyu's reply and felt a little moved. This perfect goddess actually cared about him very much. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 213. No, you should rest early in the dormitory. After drinking, they insisted on dragging me to KTV to sing. Senior, you are going to sing, I also want to hear you sing. Hee, you still owe me a song. Xiao Yu, I already have a song in my mind. I will try to write it in a few days and play it for you on guitar. Zhong Tingyu asked curiously, Senior, can you play guitar? You can write novels and songs. What else can't you do? Li Yuan smiled, it's just so-so. I just learned it and I can't play it well. Zhong Tingyu smiled lightly and joked, Senior, you are a great talent, be more confident. Li Yuan was ashamed. This talent character may have to be maintained for a long time. He could only continue to pretend. Xiao Yu, what are your plans for the rest of the holiday? Are you going back home? Zhong Tingyu asked curiously, Senior, I want to accompany you and be with you during the first holiday. Li Yuan sighed helplessly, you want to accompany me, but I can't split myself, and I have to accompany other girls. Why is it so difficult to be a scumbag? Xiao Yu, I'm very sorry, I have something urgent to do in my hometown, I need to go home for 2 or 3 days, and I can't accompany you. After a while, Zhong Tingyu replied, oh, Senior, do you want me to accompany you back? Li Yuan was startled and quickly refused. I went to accompany Xiao's Haijin, and you accompanied me, and you would be exposed immediately. he suddenly remembered that a relative in the village did pass away during the National Day this year. Because he was out of the 5th mourning period, he didn't have to go back. In his previous life, his father went back from the Northeast specifically. I have a distant relative who passed away, so it may not be convenient. Oh, senior, I'm sorry. Before Li Yuan replied, Zhong Tingyu sent another message. Senior, I'll go back to my hometown to have a look. My mother has been urging me to go back. Well, Xiao Yu, be careful on the road. I won't talk to you for now. Go to bed early. Zhong Tingyu was reluctant to leave. Good night, senior, I love you. Li Yuan also replied, I love you too, good night, Xiao Yu. In the girls' dormitory, Zhong Tingyu looked at Li Yuan's reply reluctantly, with a smile on her lips, a sweet expression of being in love. Ding Shanshan teased, Tingyu, are you sending a message to Li Yuan again? Zhong Tingyu nodded, yeah. Ding Shanshan wanted to tell Zhong Tingyu immediately that Li Yuan was playing two women at the same time, but she could only hold back thinking of Su Tingro's warning. This afternoon and evening, they first took a Porsche 911 for a ride, and then talked about many things about Li Yuan in a roundabout way. It can be seen that their beautiful and somewhat illegal perfect roommate is indeed deeply in love with Li Yuan. Seeing this, Ding Shanshan and Su Tingro dared not take the initiative to tell. The deeper the love, the deeper the hurt. Moreover, to deal with a scumbag like Li Yuan, she and Su Tingro both felt that they should persuade Zhong Tingyu more to squeeze out Li Yuan's value. Who asked you to be a scumbag? Ding Shanshan smiled meaningfully, and she couldn't help but want to hint to Zhong Tingyu in her heart. Tingyu, you and Li Yuan took a lot of photos together, why don't you show them off? Zhong Tingyu shook her head and explained, my family situation is complicated, and I don't want too many people to know. Besides, it's enough to have him in your heart, why do you have to show it to others? Ding Shanshan was speechless. She couldn't just say, go check out Baiwaxi's circle of friends, right? That would be too obvious. Su Tingro coughed and glanced at Ding Shanshan, very suspicious. If she continued to talk, Ding Shanshan would not be able to help but tell Zhong Tingyu the truth directly. She continued. Tingyu, I think Li Yuan is pretty good in all aspects, and he should be very popular with girls, right? Zhong Tingyu pursed her lips and chuckled, and snorted proudly. That's right, in his QQ space, there are many messages from book friends every day, all kinds of messages, some are very ambiguous, and there are public declarations of love, which makes people laugh. Su Tingro was slightly startled. Neither she nor Ding Shanshan had Li Yuan's QQ number. In order to keep a distance, she did not ask Zhong Tingyu for Li Yuan's mobile phone number. She really didn't know what was going on in Li Yuan's QQ space. Because of preconceived notions and knowing that Li Yuan was two-timing, Su Tingro suddenly became suspicious. According to what Zhong Tingyu said, those ambiguous and affectionate messages in Li Yuan's QQ space might really have a close relationship with Li Yuan. Su Tingro smiled meaningfully and teased, Tingyu, I think, for a boy as outstanding as Li Yuan, you must pay more attention to him and keep a close eye on him, so that other girls don't take advantage of him. Like tonight, you said he was having dinner with friends, so you should pay more attention to him. Go into his circle of friends and get to know his friends more. Zhong Tingyu didn't understand, and smiled confidently, Tingro, I believe in Li Yuan, and I don't want to restrict him too much. He has worked very hard. Besides, I am still very confident in myself. Su Tingro felt helpless. She wanted to say, Tingyu, my silly girl, you believe in Li Yuan unconditionally, but will he really be wholeheartedly devoted to you? The words came to his lips, but he swallowed them back and sighed in his heart. I just hope that this silly girl will have a good ending in the future and won't be too sad after knowing the truth. Li Yuan looked at the message sent by Xiao Yuer. Brother Xiahua, I have been visiting here and there all day today. I followed my grandfather to meet different guests. I am a little upset. I really want to go back early and be with Brother Xiahua. Brother Xiahua, do you miss me? By the way, Brother Xiahua, the song we sang at the welcome party that day seemed to be a hit. Someone also called me and wanted to sign a contract with me to be their artist, but I decisively rejected it. Xiahua Brother Hua, am I doing the right thing? Li Yuan is now quite afraid of chatting and contacting Xiao Yuer. Especially that day in the Lamborghini, he failed to control himself and almost misfired. If we say that among the 4 girls who have close contact with him at present, who has the purest love for him, it can only be Zhang Ziyu. The other 3 girls, more or less, have some factors such as money involved. Only Zhang Ziyu didn't have this factor and simply liked him as a person. Moreover, he is very proactive, his love is pure, and of course, he is also very clingy. Li Yuan sighed in his heart. It was no longer possible for him to voluntarily give up the 3 girls, Bai Wuxi, Xiao Haijin, and Zhong Tingyu, and be alone with Zhang Ziyu. Moreover, with his current financial resources, connections, resources, etc., it is impossible to satisfy Zhang Ziyu's elders. A relationship that is not in the right relationship will only end in tragedy, and there are very few accidents. Li Yuan replied, Xiao Yuer, I miss you too. These days, I will work hard to learn to play the guitar. When you come back, I will play it for you. Zhang Ziyu must be really busy. After Li Yuan replied to the message, he did not receive her reply immediately. Then he looked at the message sent by Xiao Haijin. It was very simple and heartwarming. Li Yuan, are you coming back tonight? Zixia and I are waiting for you. Li Yuan looked at Xiao Haijin's news and sighed again. He discovered that he was actually not suitable to be a scumbag because it was easy to get emotionally involved. A real scumbag should be the one who lies a lot, gives random excuses for various reasons, is proficient in pulling girls and making them happy, but is not emotionally invested and is ready to let go at any time. As the founder said, leaving no women in your heart does not mean leaving no women around you. After his rebirth, he thought he would be a real scumbag, but after meeting the 3 girls Zhong Tingyu, Xiao Haijin, and Zhang Ziyu, he really invested himself in them without knowing it. Even Bai Wuxi, the Bai Yueguang of 2 lifetimes, had hurt herself so deeply in her previous life. I didn't eat her first blood that night, wipe it clean, and kick it away. After thinking for a moment, Li Yuan dismissed the random thoughts in his mind and replied with a message, Zhaijin, I will have dinner with a few friends tonight and drink some wine. You and Zixia don't have to wait for me. You simply pack up. After lunch tomorrow, we will take a plane together and fly back to the mountain city to meet Grandma and Ning Ning. Within a minute of Li Yuan sending the message, Xiao Haijin immediately responded to the message. Well, don't drink too much at night. It's easy to hurt your body. Then Zixia and I will go to bed and wait for you to come back tomorrow. Good night, I miss you. Li Yuan's body trembled, and the beautiful face of Xiao Haijin appeared in his mind. This innocent and shy treasure girl would never make any demands to him. In addition to replying to his 3 girlfriends, Li Yuan also replied to some high school classmates and college classmates. After he became famous, he received many messages every day, especially at night. In the living room, Yang Jinyu was whispering to Bai Wuxi. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 214. Baby, does Li Yuan have to write novels every day, so late? Bai Wuxi shook her head and nodded, I don't know, but it should be about the same. I have read his novels, and he updates a lot every day, and he has to write more than 10,000 words a day. Yang Jinyu smacked her lips. She is an elementary school teacher, and she teaches Chinese. Naturally, she understands how difficult it is to write a 10,000-word novel a day. Then Li Yuan is indeed a bit tired. He has to spend at least half a day writing 10,000 words a day. I'm afraid he doesn't have much time to accompany you. This money is not easy to make. Baby, you should be more considerate of Li Yuan in the future. It's not easy for him. Don't lose your temper. Bai Wuxi snorted and nodded with a smile. Mom, I'm very good. When he is writing a book, I rarely disturb him. Yang Jinyu pinched Bai Wuxi's face. It's good that you know. By the way, baby, Li Yuan is so outstanding, and his figure and appearance are also very good. You should spend more time with him in the future, be more careful, and don't let other girls snatch him away. If that happens, you will cry. Bai Wuxi's heart trembled, thinking of the Cold War with Li Yuan at the beginning of the school year. If she hadn't made up her mind to restore the relationship, there might be no possibility for the two of them to be together. As for whether Li Yuan would lack girls to like him, Bai Wuxi understood better than anyone else. When she was in high school, she knew that there were other girls in the class who had a crush on Li Yuan. Even when Li Yuan hadn't written novels to make money, he was still very outstanding. He had good grades, a tall figure, a sunny and handsome appearance, and was warm and generous. Otherwise, she herself would not have secretly fallen in love with Li Yuan and been his desk mate for 2 years. Mom, I know, I believe in Li Yuan. Yang Jinyu was just reminding him. She was very satisfied with Li Yuan. After writing a book for 3 or 4 months, he could earn about 4 or 5 million, but he was willing to spend 7 or 800,000 to buy a car for his daughter. When they first met, he gave her and her husband a gift worth more than 100,000. If Li Yuan was not sincere to his daughter by doing this, she really couldn't think of what it would be to be sincere. Yang Jinyu yawned. She was a little tired after sitting in the car for most of the day and shopping for half a day. Baby, you wait for Li Yuan here, tell him not to stay up so late, drink so much, and go to bed early. Well, I know, I'll wait for him for a while. Okay, then I'll take a shower and go to bed first. I'm really sleepy. It's too uncomfortable to sit on the bus. Yang Jinyu complained, and thought of her daughter's sports car worth 700,000 or 800,000 yuan. An idea suddenly came to her mind. This sports car only looks good, but it is not practical. It would be great if it could be replaced with a sedan. After sending the message, Li Yuan opened the network disk and looked at the fewer and fewer manuscripts. There were only 300,000 words left, and he sighed in his heart. After confirming his relationship with Xia's Haijin, Zhong Tingyu and other girls, he had less and less time to write. There are also company matters. Zhi website has been successfully developed. After the National Day holiday, it can be put on the market for testing. The game development is also going smoothly. According to the current progress, it can be put on the market for internal testing in early 2009. In addition, the location of the milk tea shop has not yet been selected. He has contacted real estate agents and is preparing in some shopping malls and downtown areas. By some storefronts. But the later decoration, restaurant brand registration, and various certificates will probably take at least 1 or 2 months. In comparison, it is more convenient to invest in stocks. A few days ago, he registered a Hong Kong stock account. Before the National Day holiday, he invested 10 million cash in Biguandi's stocks. In the past few days, it has also risen a bit, and there is a trend of a big rise. According to the financial news he saw in his previous life, after Buffett really invested in Biguandi, the stock will definitely rise sharply, and it is possible to rise several times. Wait until tomorrow, and inject some funds into Biguandi's stocks. Anyway, their plate is very large. I invest tens of millions, which may cause some fluctuations, but it should not suddenly collapse and be slaughtered like a pig. Li Yuan muttered, I just want to make a little money. Now, start typing. Even if I become a billionaire in the future, I can't just give up on novels. Li Yuan's hands were rapidly tapping the keyboard, and the inspiration in his mind was endless, as if it was automatically generated, turning into words that appeared on the computer desktop one by one. After writing 10,000 words in one breath, he looked at the time again, and it was already 11 o'clock in the evening. Just as he was about to finish, he heard a knock on the door. Li Yuan clicked save, stretched his waist, got up and opened the door. He saw Bai Wuxi wearing a silk pajamas, with her snow-white shoulders and slender calves exposed, which was extremely tempting, and had a feeling of pure desire. Bai Wuxi walked in and asked coquettishly, "Husband, it's already 11 o'clock, aren't you going to bed yet?" Li Yuan teased, "I'm just waiting for your mother to fall asleep." "Xiao Bai, you look so good in it, have you thought about it?" Bai Wuxi blushed and lowered her head shyly. She did have that thought in her mind. But because her parents were at home, she didn't dare. Bai Wuxi rolled her eyes at Li Yuan. "Stinky Li Yuan, my mother is in the next room, keep your voice down, it will be bad if she hears." Li Yuan grinned, "Xiao Bai, don't you think it would be more exciting if your mother heard it?" Bai Wuxi's face was bright red, and she hammered Li Yuan's chest with her hand in embarrassment. "Stinky Li Yuan, you are so bad." Li Yuan looked at the beautiful lady in front of him, stepped forward and hugged Bai Wuxi, kissed her directly, and closed the door of the study room. Bai Wuxi was startled by Li Yuan's behavior. When she first opened the door, she was still pushing Li Yuan away hard, but as Li Yuan's breath spread into her mouth and nose. With a squeak, Bai Wuxi's sensitive body flowed into Li Yuan's arms as if it were as soft as if it were boneless. "Be Li Yuan." Bai Wuxi was completely panicked and quickly played a small king to stop Li Yuan. "Husband, my parents are next door, don't be here." Li Yuan didn't take it seriously and directly played a king to press. "Xiao Bai, your father has been drunk for a long time, and your mother has been asleep for a long time in the car. Don't worry, they can't hear you." Bai Wuxi hesitated and wanted to refuse, but he had no cards in his hand, so he could only let Li Yuan continue to play. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, straight. "It's over. Xiao Bai, you lost. I'm willing to admit defeat. Come on." Li Yuan chuckled, "Xiao Bai." Bai Wuxi blushed with embarrassment, crawled on the desk obediently, and looked at the text on Li Yuan's computer desk in a panic. The plot above was about the relationship between Pig's Foot Xiao Yan and Queen Medusa, but it was written very vaguely. "You stinky Li Yuan, you will bully me." Bai Wuxi's heart was beating fast, and she was nervous and expectantly waiting for the punishment after losing. Following Li Yuan. Suddenly, in the study. In the next room. Yang Jinyu had been asleep for a while. Because she drank a lot of juice, she got up to go to the toilet. When I was getting ready to go to the bathroom, I passed by the study and looked at the faint lights inside. Yang Jinyu muttered, "It's already this hour, Li Yuan, hasn't he rested yet?" Suddenly, a special sound came from the study. "Hey, what is this sound?" It seems to be 1111's voice. It's so late and she's not asleep yet. Could he be in the study with Li Yuan? As someone who has experienced this, Yang Jinyu has also been crazy, so he naturally knows and appreciates the things between men and women. Although she already knew the fact that her daughter and Li Yuan were living together, she never expected that she and Bai Tiankai were still at home. "My daughter dares to play poker with Li Yuan under her nose. That would be too bold." Yang Jinyu spat, moved his steps in a strange way, and gently climbed on the study door, listening to the sounds inside. Chapter 151 The Haggard Mother-in-Law, I Want This Son-in-Law. After his rebirth, Li Yuan's perception was very sensitive. Although he drank a pound of Maotai, his brain was already dizzy. But while playing poker, I still noticed the slight movement outside the door. Biwixi might not have heard the gentle footsteps, because she was covering her mouth at this time, trying not to make any louder sounds, and her brain was already very confused. However, Li Yuan heard clearly. Hanko, Baiyuegwang, and I are playing poker in the study, and my mother-in-law is peeping outside the door. He had seen this kind of plot before in the main article of the first page. I thought it was all a plot made up by the author, but I never expected that it would actually happen to me. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 215. Li Yuan's heart was so excited that he was so frightened that he flew out of his wits. It was so frightening. But we are in the process of Tko at this time, so we can't stop it halfway. That would scare Yang Wei. He is very worried now, afraid that his mother-in-law will suddenly push in the door, and how he will face it when the time comes, what kind of scene it will be. A picture suddenly appeared in my mind. The still charming mother-in-law said shyly and timidly, "I'm sorry, I didn't come at the right time." Say it to yourself, no, you came at the right time. Maid, how could a gentleman like me come up with such a perverted idea? Jiao Yingjun, you damn ruined my youth. It's over. I drive too much and think about everything with color. I need to watch less love action movies from now on. I blame Bang Ziguo for everything. If I have nothing to do, I'll just shoot some of my mother's best friend came to visit late at night. My half-sister is actually my tutor. After the divorce, my sister-in-law fell in love with me. That night, my stepmother drank too much. Li Yuan quickly expelled this unethical thought from his mind. He is a serious person and only does serious things. There was a period of time in his previous life when he was so self-destructive, and at most he tried to change girlfriends a little more often, but he definitely didn't have sex, and he didn't dare to challenge the bottom line of human ethics. Of course, as far as he knew, some people spent too much money playing than this. 3 or 4 were considered less, and he had seen dozens of them together. Videos. Li Yuan held Xiaobai's arm with one hand and pressed her hand on the other hand, and continued to play cards one after another. I secretly glanced at the door of the study room, feeling very nervous and feeling a little guilty, afraid of being suddenly opened. He had unlocked the study door just now. The other party only needs a gentle push to see the scenery inside. However, Li Yuan was obviously overly worried. After his mother-in-law stopped at the door, there was no sound except for the faint sound of heavy breathing. "It's a bit too exciting, why don't you show off?" Li Yuan muttered secretly in his heart. Adrenaline is constantly soaring, moves are constantly being made, and various card skills are constantly being shown off. In the past life, I followed those who had the same identity, a gambling father, a sick mother, a younger brother who goes to school, and she who is broken. If I don't help her, who will help her? Love rises with the clock, and it is difficult to calm down when the clock stops. The moves he learned from those pretty girls made his poker skills reach the level of proficiency. In just a moment, Biwixi, a novice at the card game who had just learned to play poker for a few days, was stunned. He was beaten by Li Yuan until he was foaming at the mouth, falling into pieces, and was completely defeated. He kept screaming, wanting to raise the white flag and surrender. But Li Yuan had a good hand of cards, including straights, pairs, and bombs, forming an overwhelming advantage. There was also his mother-in-law cheering outside the card ring. How could he easily accept Biwixi's surrender? Must leave a deep and unforgettable impression on her. Yang Jinyu secretly listened outside the door for a while. Her baby daughter's voice became louder and louder, and she became more and more unruly, causing her still pretty face to change. She suddenly recalled her youth, when she and Bai Beikichu fell in love with each other as soon as they met, and then they got out of hand. Once upon a time, the two of them were young and excited, tirelessly asking for each other, and devoting themselves wholeheartedly to it. Often, with just one look or action, you can understand what the other person is thinking, hoping, and wishing. But as she married thousands of miles away despite the objections of her mother-in-law, the relationship between the couple also continued to diminish in the quarrels over various issues such as food, rice, oil, salt, household chores, and children's education. It had been a long time since she had been intimate with her during the day. Yang Jinyu felt a little hot inside herself, and strange emotions began to surge into her body. She couldn't help but rub her own breasts with her hands through her daughter's pajamas. I don't know how long it took. Half an hour passed. The daughter's voice in the study room had become hoarse and could not be heard. There was only a single declaration of victory. And she herself, with her own hand alone, could never feel the sensation of going up or down. She didn't have that hearty feeling. Yang Jinyu had been leaning against the wall of the study room for half an hour, and her legs were already numb. He glanced at the study with a resentful look, spat softly, supported the wall, moved his steps gently, and pushed open the bedroom door. Young is good. After returning to the bedroom, Yang Jinyu's physical symptoms did not improve at all, as if there were millions of ants crawling all over his body. She opened the quilt and looked at Bai Tiankai, who was snoring and murmuring at the corner of his mouth. She blushed, got into the quilt, and opened her red lips. In the study, Bai Wuxi's voice was hoarse. He knelt on the ground and begged for mercy, begging for mercy indistinctly at the corners of his mouth. Husband, your poker skills are so great, why don't I give up? Xiao Bai, wait a moment, I'm almost running out of remaining cards. After drinking a bottle of Zhangxiang technology, Li Yuan's state reached its peak, and his poker skills have reached the level of perfection, skill, reaching the pinnacle. I saw him playing a straight first, then a pair of planes, and then a king bomb, suddenly and powerfully outputting. Game over. Bai Wuxi didn't even have a chance to play his cards, so he returned defeated and his entire army was wiped out, ending the battle. Li Yuan smiled, feeling refreshed, the alcohol gone, kneading Bai Wuxi's breasts meaningfully, like a victorious general, smiling calmly. Xiao Bai, your card skills are not good, we need to find more opportunities to practice in the future. Bai Wuxi's body was numb, she hugged Li Yuan's neck with her backhand, and snorted shyly, husband, my legs are numb, please carry me back to the bedroom. Li Yuan smiled, thinking to himself that fortunately Bai Wuxi, Zhong Tingyu, and Xia's Haijin were all girls with good figures, weighing only about 100 pounds, like those female stars and models, and they were really comfortable and easy to hold. If they were like those tanks weighing 150 plus, they would not be able to hold them at all, and many card skills would not be able to be used, and the experience would be too bad. Li Yuan turned off the computer, picked up Bai Wuxi by the waist, pushed open the master bedroom, and threw her on the bed. Xiao Bai, I'm going to take a shower. Do you want to join me? Bai Wuxi was sweating profusely and rolled her eyes at Li Yuan. Puh, stinky Li Yuan, big pervert, I don't want to take a shower with you. She was a little afraid of Li Yuan in her heart. Li Yuan's body and card skills were too good. She was no match for him at all. She couldn't even finish a round of the banker and lost everything, including her pants, clothes, and underwear. Li Yuan didn't mind, smiled, and took a shower by himself. After a simple rinse, Li Yuan went straight into the bed. Bai Wuxi immediately lay down obediently and curled up in his arms. Li Yuan rubbed Bai Wuxi's head and asked, Xiao Bai, what brand of car do your parents like? Bai Wuxi looked at Li Yuan in confusion, pursed her lips and snickered, why are you asking this? You don't want to buy a car for my parents, do you? Congratulations, you got it right, thank you for your performance tonight. Li Yuan nodded. We spent more than 100,000 yuan on our first meeting today, so it's not a big deal to spend a few 100,000 yuan to buy a car for my cheap father-in-law and mother-in-law. Maybe it will have unexpected results in the future. Besides, we should always treat each other equally. Since we bought a Porsche 911 worth nearly 2 million yuan for Zhongting Yu, it's not a big deal to spend a little more money on Baiwexi. After all, Baiwexi is his white moonlight no matter what, and now he is very obedient, and he will bend when asked to bend, kneel when asked to kneel, and completely become the shape he likes. There is another reason. After selling the copyright of the game Battle Starry Sky, he has now completed the initial accumulation of original funds. As long as there is no accident, he can easily reach a net worth of tens of billions in a few years by investing in Bitcoin, Biguandi, T-Soon, Mutai, Fruit, Tesla, and other stocks in the future. A few 100,000 is nothing to him. Having money is so willful. Unfortunately, my parents can't drive, they can only drive agricultural tractors. Some time ago, I asked him to go back to his hometown and spend money to take a test or buy a driver's license. I don't know if he has done it. Li Yuan muttered in his heart. After he became rich, he naturally would not forget his parents. He gave them millions of pocket money on the card, and another million to build a house in his hometown. But they have been frugal all their lives, so it is still a bit difficult to adapt to the life of the rich all of a sudden. They need to adapt slowly. Just like an ordinary person who is used to eating steamed buns, dumplings, cabbage, shredded potatoes, etc., you ask him to eat Australian lobster, steak, caviar, he may not be able to eat it. Habits always need to be developed slowly. Seeing that Li Yuan really wanted to buy a car for his parents, Baiwexi couldn't help but hug Li Yuan's head and kissed him. Staring at Li Yuan affectionately, there were faint tears in his eyes. Baiwexi never expected that Li Yuan would buy one for his parents after buying a sports car for himself. "Hubby, you are so nice to me. I am so touched that I am about to cry. My parents seem to like Mercedes-Benz more." Li Yuan pinched her cheeks, lifted her chin, stared at her, and said with a sly smile, "Xiaobai, you just performed well. Keep up the good work in the future. As long as you are obedient, I will treat you better." Baiwexi nodded shyly. She is now a little bit addicted to it. The instinctive reaction of her body makes her unload her psychological burden and actively cater to Li Yuan. The skill of playing poker is also improving rapidly with the growth of experience. Practical combat is the best teacher, which is much more useful than theoretical learning. "Hubby, I will be very good in the future, listen to you, and be your good wife." Li Yuan laughed, "That's settled. I must be obedient in the future." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 216. Early tomorrow morning, let's go to the Mercedes-Benz Four Sons store together, buy them the car first, and have a showdown first. How about that? Baiwexi nodded repeatedly, "Husband, I listen to you." Li Yuan smiled and said, "By the way, Xiaobai, I forgot to tell you something. I have to go on a business trip tomorrow to the mountain city to discuss copyright cooperation. I will fly at noon tomorrow. It may take 3 or 4 days, I'll accompany you and your uncle and aunt." After hearing this, Baiwexi felt a little disappointed, but she still nodded obediently. "Husband, you are busy with your work. Work is more important. We still have a long time together." "That's right, the future is long," Li Yuan said with a smile, "just don't be angry. If this cooperation can be concluded, it will also be good for my future development. Tomorrow, I bought a new car. Taking advantage of the National Day holiday, you and your parents go shopping around. Hangchang, Sioux City, Yangchang, etc. are not far away, I will reimburse you for the expenses." Baiwexi was greatly moved. "Yeah, husband, thank you for your hard work. Li Yuan was also a little tired. He held Bai Wuxi in his arms and said with a smile. Go to bed early. Early tomorrow morning, after another breakfast, we will go shopping for a car. A peaceful night together. Some people sleep soundly, while others have trouble sleeping all night. That night, Yang Jinyu tossed and turned, unable to sleep all night, and got up to wash up at dawn. The next day, early in the morning, Li Yuan took advantage of the birds to sprout in the morning, played poker with Bai Wuxi again, and had a hearty breakfast. Coincidentally, Yang Jinyu also got up and washed up with a haggard face. He heard the faint sound in the bedroom again, and his already haggard face became even more helpless. No, 1111 and Xiao Yuan, this is too ungrateful. When we find an opportunity, we must remind 1111. After about an hour, the sound stopped, and Li Yuan and Bai Wuxi left the room to wash up. Mom, why do you look so bad today? Didn't you rest last night? Bai Wuxi asked with concern. She didn't know that Ms. Yang Jinyu couldn't sleep all night. Yang Jinyu glanced at her young and beautiful baby daughter speechlessly, and thought to herself, if you and Li Yuan weren't so crazy, I wouldn't have been unable to sleep all night. Play poker, just play poker. There was such a big movement. Fortunately, your dad was drunk, otherwise he would have exploded in anger if he found out. Well, it's a bit of a bed. Don't worry about me. I've bought breakfast for you. You can have some later. Bai Wuxi asked with a smile, Mom, my dad hasn't woken up yet. Yang Jinyu glanced at the bedroom and was speechless. My husband usually has a pretty good drinking capacity, but why did he get drunk immediately the first time he drank with his future son-in-law, and he still hasn't sobered up yet? Is Mutai's stamina that great? Leave him alone and let him continue to sleep. He does that when he drinks too much and can sleep until noon. Bai Wuxi walked into the room with a slightly worried look, and was relieved to see Bai Tiankai breathing evenly. After a simple breakfast, Bai Wuxi said with a smile. Mom, Li Yuan and I will go out in a while. You can stay with Dad at home. She discussed with Li Yuan last night and planned to give her parents a surprise and not tell them the truth for the time being. Yang Jinyu didn't doubt it, and she didn't worry about leaving Tian Tiankai alone at home. Okay, I'll stay at home with your dad. Bai Wuxi was wearing a long white dress, carrying the new LV baby that Li Yuan gave her yesterday, and shook the BMW car key in her hand. Mom, let's go first. Li Yuan drove his car and took Bai Wuxi directly to the Mercedes-Benz Four Sons store. He spent more than 500,000 and bought a brand new Mercedes-Benz E-Series, which was still registered in Bai Wuxi's name. Looking at the brand new Mercedes-Benz and the motor vehicle registration certificate, at this moment, Bai Wuxi had already made up his mind to stay with Li Yuan for the rest of his life. Hee, hubby, you are so kind. If my parents knew about it, they would definitely agree and let me marry you. Li Yuan smiled and was non-committal. If he only has Bai Wuxi as his girlfriend, then there will be no problem. Unfortunately, he has more than one girlfriend, and one of them is Bai Wuxi's best friend. You can imagine what Bai Wuxi's parents thought of him after knowing the truth. Li Yuan thought to himself, we have done everything that labor and management can do, and we have a clear conscience. For the rest, let it happen. Li Yuan's obsession with Bai Wuxi is no longer that deep. Once a person's obsession is eliminated, he will instantly think a lot more. The two of them drove back to Feiakuofu community, one behind the other. Bai Wuxi excitedly took the new car keys and vehicle registration certificate, took Li Yuan's hand, and returned home. In the room, Bai Tiankai was already awake and was accepting criticism from Yang Jinyu. Old Bai, I didn't let you drink so much last night, but you had to drink so much. We both of us have been embarrassed by you. Is Maotai so delicious? Qi was silent during the day. He knew he was in the wrong and felt helpless. Yesterday, I was in a happy mood, happy that my daughter had found such an excellent boyfriend. Coupled with the attraction of Mautai, I accidentally drank too much. Jinyu, I know I was wrong. I won't drink so much next time. After Bai Tiankai apologized, he muttered somewhat depressedly. I didn't expect Xiao Yuan to be so good at drinking. He's only a little older, but he can drink more than me and persuade me. Yang Jinyu snorted, Xiao Yuan is a genius. Look at Xiao Yuan's muscles and your belly. It would be strange if you could drink more than Xiao Yuan. Bai Tiankai glanced at Yang Jinyu speechlessly and wanted to say that alcohol tolerance and body shape have nothing to do with each other. But thinking of Yang Jinyu's personality, he swallowed his words back. It's already 11 o'clock in the morning. Zixi and Xiao Yuan, will you come back for lunch? Yang Jinyu shook her head and frowned, I don't know. They went out early in the morning and didn't say where they were going. Bai Tiankai looked at Yang Jinyu with expectation, Jinyu, where is the Rolex watch Xiao Yuan gave me yesterday? Let me see it. It's worth more than 100,000 yuan. This is the first time I have seen a watch worth more than 100,000 yuan in real life. What kind of character, look at how beautiful you are. Yang Jinyu curled her lips, rolled her eyes at Bai Tiankai, took out the Rolex watch given by Li Yuan, and handed it to Bai Tiankai carefully. Seeing Bai Tiankai put it on his hand in a hurry, Yang Jinyu couldn't help but remind him. Old Bai, be careful, don't break it, it's worth more than 100,000 yuan. Bai Tiankai held the Rolex watch in his palm, looked left and right, and liked it very much, but also felt a little sorry. He sighed. The price of this Rolex gold watch can be exchanged for a car. I want to return it and exchange it for a car, and then take out the dowry we prepared for Zixi, and grit my teeth to buy a BBA. Yang Jinyu rarely objected this time. This Rolex watch can only be looked at and not eaten. Even if Bai Tiankai was asked to wear it out, he didn't dare to wear it out. It's too expensive. If he really wears it out, those petty thieves will dare to rob it in the street. The public security in a small county is not as good as that in the big city of Shanghai. Lao Bai, this sentence is only for us to say at home, don't let Xiao Yuan hear it. If he is looked down upon for nothing, our Zixi will not be able to raise her head in the future. Bai Tiankai replied impatiently, I just said it, how can I return it? While the two were talking, the door was suddenly pushed open. Bai Wuxi ran over excitedly. Dad, Mom, guess what Li Yuan and I did? Yang Jinyu asked with a smile, Mom can't guess, what did you two do? Bai Wuxi shook the Mercedes-Benz car key in her hand. Mom, look at what this is. Car key, Yang Jinyu blurted out. Suddenly, she was startled and saw that the car key in Bai Wuxi's hand was different from the car key yesterday. The logo on it was not BMW, but Mercedes-Benz. Yang Jinyu looked at her daughter and Li Yuan tremblingly, Zixi, Xiao Yuan, did you go to buy a car? Bai Tiankai also asked with doubts, what do you mean you bought a car again? Bai Wuxi smiled and handed the Mercedes-Benz car key in her hand to Yang Jinyu. Mom, Dad, this is the Mercedes-Benz car key. Li Yuan took me to the store to pick it up just now. Li Yuan said that it was left for you to drive. This is the motor vehicle registration certificate and insurance certificate. Yang Jinyu looked at the Mercedes-Benz car key in her hand with trembling body, and looked at Li Yuan in disbelief. Xiao Yuan, this is unacceptable. You just gave us such an expensive gift yesterday, why are you giving us a car today? If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 217. During the day, Qi looked at Li Yuan with a complicated expression, took a deep breath, and felt very uneasy. They were just discussing whether they could exchange their Rolex watches for a car. In the blink of an eye, my daughter's boyfriend bought a new Mercedes-Benz as a gift to them. Nothing can come true faster than you could dream of. Xiao Yuan, This is too expensive. I was already presumptuous by accepting the gold Rolex watch you gave me yesterday. Li Yuan directly interrupted Bai Tiankai's words and smiled calmly. Uncle Bai and Aunt Yang are all a family. Don't be so outspoken. You can safely leave Xiao Bai to me. I should be the one thanking you. This car is a piece of my heart. Haha, this car is registered in Xiao Bai's name and is a gift from me. Li Yuan blinked at Bai Wuxi. Right, Xiao Bai. Bai Wuxi understood it and nodded quickly. Dad, Mom, this is the car Li Yuan gave me. I have accepted it. Bai Tiankai and Yang Jinyu looked at each other and could only nod secretly in helplessness and surprise. This son-in-law was so generous that they couldn't resist him. Bai Tiankai looked at Li Yuan and sighed, Xiao Yuan, we deserve it if you do this. Li Yuan smiled and said, Uncle Bai, Aunt Yang, I have something to do today. I have to go on a business trip in a while. I can't accompany you these 2 days. I hope you don't mind. Let Xiao Bai take you around and relax. After Li Yuan finished speaking, he looked at Bai Wuxi, rubbed her head, and said with a smile, Xiao Bai, you have been spending time with your uncle and aunt these days. I know. Bai Wuxi hugged Li Yuan's arm with a smile. When Yang Jinyu heard that Li Yuan was going on a business trip, he didn't dare to ask any more questions. Xiao Yuan, please pay attention to safety on the road. You don't have to worry about me and your Uncle Bai. Li Yuan smiled and said, Uncle Bai, Aunt Yang, I have to go back to prepare for my flight at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I won't have dinner with you at noon. Yang Jinyu quickly spoke out to persuade him to stay. Xiao Yuan, you have to eat lunch before leaving. Li Yuan smiled slightly. No, Aunt Yang, I have to go to the company first to get some documents. Okay then. Let's go down and see you off. Aunt Yang, Uncle Bai, don't give it away. It's okay, we'll send it downstairs to the community. Li Yuan couldn't refuse, so he could only accept it. That's okay. Along the way, Bai Wuxi didn't care that her parents were by her side. She hugged Li Yuan's arm tightly and couldn't bear to look at him. Li Yuan, when you arrive at the mountain city, you must tell me that you are safe. Don't worry, I can. Li Yuan smiled. Watching Li Yuan leave in a BMW X6, Yang Jinyu glanced at the brand new Mercedes-Benz parked downstairs. Suddenly he glanced at Bai Tiankai and Bai Wuxi. He said seriously, Lao Bai, 1111, I have confirmed Li Yuan as my son-in-law. Chapter 152. Heading to the mountain city, Xiao's Haijin was moved to tears. Yang Jinyu said this in a serious tone, and specifically paused on Bai Wuxi's face. Bai Wuxi showed a shy expression and snorted, Mom, I want to test him again. Yang Jinyu snorted, 1111, how else do you want to test Xiao Yuan? I'll give you everything I can give you. Mom tells you, you should get along well with Xiao Yuan from now on, don't lose your temper easily, and be more tolerant and caring. It's not easy for Xiao Yuan to have a career. When Bai Wuxi saw her mother standing in Li Yuan's position, she felt very sweet and moved, but also a little aggrieved. She is already very good and obedient. After confirming her relationship with Li Yuan, she has given everything she has to satisfy all his excessive demands. What else can he want from her? However, Li Yuan was also very kind to herself and her parents. She was indeed very touched. Yeah, Mom, I know, I will be more considerate of him. Yang Jinyu snorted softly, with a picturesque look on his face, and said with a smile, it's good that you know, such an excellent son-in-law, I wouldn't recognize anyone else. After Yang Jinyu finished speaking, he looked at Bai Tiankai again. Old Bai, haven't you always liked Mercedes-Benz? Your son-in-law bought another Mercedes-Benz for your precious daughter. Come and give us two a try. Bai Wuxi wisely put the Mercedes-Benz key into Bai Tiankai's hand, pursed his lips and snickered, Dad, Mom, Li Yuan originally wanted to buy it for you directly. I was afraid that you would refuse, so he registered it in my name and bought it for you, a surprise for you. Dad, Mom, let's go try it. Yang Jinyu was all smiles. My precious son-in-law is really thoughtful and generous, which makes me feel a little embarrassed. Bai Tiankai felt a little embarrassed, but excitedly took the car keys from his daughter. He never thought that his and his wife's lifelong pursuit would be realized so easily. Giving birth to an excellent daughter can really change your life. Li Yuan breathed a sigh of relief after leaving Feiqiuofu community in his BMW X6. This was the first time he met his cheap father-in-law and his mother-in-law. He felt pretty good about himself. The money had already been spent, and even an iceberg melted for him. Bai Wuxi's parents belonged to an ordinary petty bourgeoisie family, which is slightly higher than his family of origin, but still far behind ordinary families in big cities. It's easy to deal with this kind of family, just be better than them. Because, the nature of admiring the strong is deeply imprinted in their genes. They are also the most vivid representatives of the general public who are most eager to complete the class crossing. Thinking of Bai Wuxi's parents' performance towards him today, Li Yuan sighed in his heart. It is obviously a very clear truth, a reality that he saw clearly in his previous life. Why do he always have illusions? Is this the reason why his colleagues in the system used to say that he was too naive, too simple, and too emotional? The authorities are confused, and the bystanders are clear. The whole society, from ancient times to the present, is turbid. You don't have the talent to stay untainted by the mud, so why are you pretending to be noble? It's just a joke. Li Yuan smiled, and the entanglement in his heart suddenly untied a lot. As a man, never complain about women and women's families. As long as you work hard enough and have a clear conscience, even if anything happens, what's the harm? Kick what should be kicked, kick what should be kicked, and change what should be changed. In the final analysis, it is just that you are not good enough. If you are good enough, everyone in the world will be very enthusiastic about you, and there will always be beautiful 18-year-old girls around you. This is the reality of society. Whether you face it calmly or refuse to admit defeat, this social law will always exist. No one cares about you in a busy city, but you have distant relatives in the mountains. The ancients have long said the truth. Li Yuan was thinking wildly in his mind, driving slowly on the wide road, and walking towards Jinxia Villa community. In this world, if there is really a pure and flawless treasure girl, she may be the only one left. Being with her, you don't need to worry about anything, and even the impetuous mind will be cleansed involuntarily. This is not about the instinctive primitive desire of the body, but the homecoming of the soul. Jinxia Villa community. Xia's Haijin stared blankly out the window, looking at the mobile phone Li Yuan gave her from time to time, waiting for Li Yuan's news with a fluctuating mood. Today is the day that Li Yuan promised to accompany her back to his hometown in Shancheng. But Li Yuan hasn't come back for 2 nights, and she doesn't have the courage to ask for the reason. She can only wait for Li Yuan to come back at home silently. No, there is another little girl waiting for him to come home, Li Yuan's sister Li Zixia. At some point, Li Zixia quietly came to Xia's Haijin's side. Looking at this beautiful sister who is pure, beautiful, extremely gentle, and sensible, Li Zixia felt a little distressed. Such a good girl, her own brother, why doesn't he know how to cherish her? She couldn't figure it out. Sister's Haijin, I'll call my brother. He won't be too busy to forget. Xia's Haijin shook her head and said gently, Zixia, no need, Li Yuan should be busy. Li Zixia muttered dissatisfiedly, Sister's Haijin, you are my brother's girlfriend, he has the obligation to tell you his movements. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 218. Xia's Haijin smiled and shook her head, looking out the window, waiting for Li Yuan. At this moment, the door was suddenly pushed open. Li Zixia laughed in surprise, Sisters Hyjin, it must be my brother who is back. Xia's Hyjin's heart, which had been hanging in the air, suddenly relaxed. Li Yuan pushed the door open and looked at Li Zixia, who was rushing towards him like a young swallow returning to the nest. He also stared at Xia's Hyjin, who was standing aside with expectation in her eyes. Li Yuan touched Li Zixia's head and explained with a smile, "There are a lot of things in the company these 2 days, and I went out to discuss a contract, which took some time." Li Zixia murmured, and stood up for Xia's Hyjin, "My good brother, even if you don't worry about my sister, my beautiful sister's Hyjin, you should spend more time with her and care more about her. I don't know what sister's Hyjin likes about you. You say you are busy every day. It feels like you are busier than the president of the ugly country." Xia's Hyjin was afraid that Li Yuan would misunderstand, so she quickly explained, "Zixia, your brother is busy with work, I'm fine." Li Yuan was embarrassed and full of guilt. If Xia's Hyjin, a simple girl, knew that she had accompanied 2 different girls to send sports cars these 2 days, I don't know how she would react. "Hyjin, Zixia, pack up simply, we will go to the airport now and fly to Shancheng." When Li Zixia heard that they were really going to Shancheng, her previous dissatisfaction disappeared immediately. "Brother, sisters Hyjin and I have packed up long ago, just waiting for you to come back." As he said that, Li Zixia ran to the bedroom, pushing 2 suitcases and large and small bags of things out. Li Yuan was very speechless. "Zixia, we will only stay in Shancheng for a few days, why do you bring so many things? When we get there, if we really need anything, we can just buy it locally. It's inconvenient to bring too many things and clothes, just bring a change of clothes. Shancheng is also a big city, there is everything." Li Zixia glanced at Xia's Hyjin, and Xia's Hyjin also glanced at Li Zixia. The 2 little beauties, one big and one small, looked at each other, pushed the suitcases back to the bedroom, and repacked. Because they had to take a plane, Li Yuan did not drive. He took Li Zixia and Xia's Hyjin to the door, took a taxi, and went to the Magic City airport. In his previous life, Li Yuan had taken a few planes, but he didn't feel anything new, just a slight sense of weightlessness, which was a bit uncomfortable. But Xia's Hyjin and Li Zixia were completely on a plane for the first time. They were very nervous and curious, and kept asking questions. "Brother, is that a plane? It looks so big, how can it fly? I saw someone online saying that planes are very unsafe. During takeoff and landing, there will be overweight and weightlessness, which will be very uncomfortable. Brother, don't we have to carry the suitcases? If we just put them here for check-in, will they be lost?" Li Yuan was holding a laptop, which was his tool for typing, and explained with a smile. "There is a storage place for the suitcases, and they will board the plane before us. They all have serial numbers, so don't worry. Don't put valuables in the suitcases, just carry them with you. As for overweight and weightlessness, it's not particularly uncomfortable. You will get used to it after riding a few times." Xia's Hyjin looked at the big planes outside the window, and her thoughts had already flown to her hometown thousands of miles away, where her most concerned relatives were. The plane at 2 o'clock in the afternoon flew in the air for 3 hours before arriving at Shancheng Airport. As soon as I got off the plane, the heat wave hit me. As one of the 4 most famous furnaces in the country. During the National Day holiday, it was very hot. For example, the surface temperature now is about 39 degrees. It is much hotter than in Shanghai. After leaving the airport, Li Zixia looked left and right and asked expectantly, "Brother, sister-in-law, what are we going to do now? Go directly back to sister's Hyjin's house?" Li Yuan shook his head. He had asked Xia's Hyjin before. Her hometown is in the countryside of a small county town under Shancheng. It takes at least 4 or 5 hours to drive from the urban area of Shancheng. It is already past 5 in the afternoon. It is definitely too late to go directly back to Xia's Haijin's hometown. In 2008, the roads were not as developed as in later generations, especially the roads in Shancheng, which were very difficult to walk. Li Yuan did not dare to drive. Haijin, Zixia, let's stay in Shancheng for one night, go around Shancheng, and go back early tomorrow morning. Although Xia's Haijin was eager to go home, she also knew that it was not safe at night, and looked at Li Yuan with a smile. Li Yuan, I'll listen to you. Li Zixia asked expectantly, brother, where are we going to play later? I've read a lot of travel guides about mountain cities on the internet these 2 days. Kaohsiunmen, Hanjiadong, Saikikao, Foreigner Street. Li Yuan was speechless and snapped his fingers at her head. You only know how to play. We are here to do business, not to travel. Now, let's go to the car rental company, rent a car, and then find a driver to take us back tomorrow. Li Zixia couldn't understand when he heard that he had to find a driver, and asked in confusion, brother, don't you know how to drive? Why do you need a driver? Li Yuan looked embarrassed and thought, do you think I dare to drive on the roads in this mountain city? His driving skills are only good for driving in cities in plains. He doesn't dare to drive in the mountains at this time. Li Zixia, are you asking 100,000 questions? Just be obedient and listen. Xia's Haijin was watching the brother and sister bickering on the side, and felt very interesting. This was the feeling of home. Thinking of this, she felt more eager to go home to visit her grandmother and brother. With the information from the know-it-all taxi driver, Li Yuan quickly found a car rental company. At a price of 3,000 yuan per day, he rented a Land Rover off-road vehicle, including a middle-aged driver who had rich mountain driving experience and was familiar with the roads in the mountain city area. Li Yuan looked at this middle-aged man who was not very tall, only about 1.7 meters tall, and smiled. What's your name, brother? The middle-aged man quickly replied, Mr. Li, my name is Yu Jiang, just call me Xiao Yu. Li Yuan smiled faintly, brother Yu, I'll trouble you these days. Mr. Li is polite, this is what we should do, Yu Jiang replied respectfully. He has been in this business for some time, and his vision of people is still very accurate. Li Yuan was dressed like a rich or noble college student. He was accompanied by 2 girls, one of whom was particularly beautiful, the only one he had ever seen in his life. Li Yuan was also very generous. He could earn 800 or 900 yuan a day for the driver and the man, which was 3,000 yuan. He was considered a big customer. Brother Yu, take us to Kaohsiunmen and Hanjiadong first. Okay, Mr. Li. With a private driver, it was much more convenient. Li Yuan sat in the co-pilot seat and felt his scalp tingling when he saw the strange roads in the mountain city. Li Zixia and Xia's Haijin sat in the back seat, looking like they had never seen the world, and kept exclaiming. Brother, sister-in-law, we were just on the ground, how come we turned a corner and ran upstairs? The roads in this mountain city are too strange. I finally understand, brother, you can drive, but you still have to ask Uncle Yu to drive for us. Li Yuan was also in the mountain city for the first time, and he was not familiar with this place, but he had seen too much about the complicated roads in the mountain city on Duyan. This is a city where even navigation is polite to each other. We have arrived at the mountain city ahead. Baidu Maps has been switched to Jayad Maps for you. This is not a joke. The roads in the mountain city are such a magical place. That afternoon, Li Yuan took Xia's Haijin and Li Zixia, followed by Yu Jiang, and walked around Kaohsiunmen, Hanjiadong, and Jifangbei. At Li Yuan's insistence, he bought some clothes and shoes for Xia's Haijin's grandmother and brother, and also bought 4 boxes of Maotai, 4 huazi and other gifts. When we returned to the hotel at night, it was already around 10 o'clock in the evening. When preparing to go to bed, Li Zixia hugged Xia's Haijin's arm and made a face at Li Yuan. Brother, I want to sleep with sister's Haijin at night. Li Yuan calculated the time. Xia's Haijin's relatives should be able to leave in 2 days. He could only watch but not eat, and he was also very anxious. Fortunately, he had eaten well at Zhongtingyu and Baiwixi's place these 2 days, so he was not greedy. He would rest for 2 days and leave an unforgettable first time for Xia's Haijin. Xia's Haijin looked at Li Yuan shyly, wanting to accompany him, but Li Zixia had already spoken, and she didn't know how to say it. Li Yuan was also a little tired, and blinked at Xia's Haijin. Zhaijin, Zixia, that's it, you guys go to bed quickly, and we will start at about 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Back in his room, Li Yuan took a shower and checked the messages on his phone. Zhongtingyu and Baiwixi asked with concern. Li Yuan first called Zhongtingyu. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 219. Hey, Xiao Yueliang, what are you doing? Do you miss me? I don't miss you. Zhongtingyu snorted softly. She thought Li Yuan would not call her today. Li Yuan's mouth corners slightly raised. Zhongtingyu has the personality of a proud goddess. Really don't miss me? Then I'll hang up the phone. Smelly Senior, how dare you? Didn't you say you didn't miss me? Humph, Senior, I miss you so much that I'm going crazy. Are you satisfied? No, come on, give me a kiss. Smelly Senior, you are so frivolous even on the phone. Xiao Yueliang, where did you go all day today? Tingro, Shan Shan, I drove around the school together, and then went to the mall and went shopping. More than half an hour later, Li Yuan hung up Zhongtingyu's phone and replied to Baiwixi and Zhang Ziyu respectively. Looking at the time, it was around 11 o'clock in the evening. Li Yuan opened his laptop, logged into the writer's zone, copied the manuscripts stored in the network disk to the web page, and sent them at a scheduled time. It's still good in this era. If you want to drive, you can drive. You don't have to worry about being reviewed or blocked. Li Yuan muttered. In this book Battle Starry Sky, he often drove in a subtle way. Unlike the future when he was often reviewed and blocked, this time, the scale was very large. After typing for another hour, Li Yuan fell asleep. The next morning, early in the morning, Li Yuan and his 3 companions sat in the Land Rover and drove towards Xia's Haijin's hometown. After getting off the highway, they came to a small county town, Jinjiang County. Jinjiang County is a small county town, but because the mountain city is one of the 4 municipalities directly under the central government, the urban construction is not bad. Li Yuan, Zixia, I went to high school in Jinjiang No. 1 Middle School. I lived in the dormitory at that time. My uncle's family lived in Jinjiang. Xia's Haijin looked at the familiar city and excitedly introduced it to Li Yuan and Li Zixia. Li Yuan held Xia's Haijin's hand and said with a smile, Zhaijin, when we meet Grandma and Ningning, we will ask them whether to stay in the mountain city or go to school with us in the magic city. Li Zixia asked excitedly, Brother, sisters Haijin, are you going to let brothers Heining go to school in the magic city? Xia's Haijin explained with a smile, I am also undecided. Let's ask Grandma's opinion. As the Land Rover drove into the dangerous mountain road, Li Yuan, Xia's Haijin, and the other 2 were all tense. On this kind of road, ordinary people would not dare to drive if they were not familiar with the road conditions. Li Zixia grabbed the handrail with fear and said fearfully, Brother, you are still foresighted. I am afraid to walk on this kind of road, let alone drive. Li Yuan patted her head and was also secretly frightened. This path was carved out of the cliffs. Once it rained, it was very easy to have landslides, mudslides, and other dangerous situations. He looked at her in a daze, staring at Xia's Haijin outside the window. At some point, Xia's Haijin was already in tears, 2 tears falling from her face. Li Yuan was shocked and thought of what Xia's Haijin had told him before. It seemed that Xia's Haijin's parents and grandfather had all died in a landslide. Haijin, this place. Xia's Haijin turned her head and looked at Li Yuan with tears in her eyes, forcing a smile to explain. Li Yuan, my parents had an accident in this place. Li Yuan hugged Xia's Haijin in his arms, patted her shoulder, and shouted to the driver Yu Jiang. Brother Yu, please stop here. Okay, Mr. Liu Jiang stopped the car quickly. Xia's Haijin looked at Li Yuan in confusion. Li Yuan smiled slightly and opened the car door. Haijin, let's pay tribute to our uncle and aunt here. Xia's Haijin's tears flowed down when she heard it. Chapter 153 Li Yuan, get out of the way, I'm going to act cool, Happy New Year. Li Yuan got out of the car, took a bottle of mutai, a lighter, a box of Zonghua cigarettes, and the apples, bananas, and oranges he bought. He held Xia's Haijin's hand and walked to the roadside silently. The slope of this mountain road had obvious signs of being repaired with cement and concrete, and it was covered with moss under the wind and sun. Xia's Haijin's eyes were red. She came to the place where her parents had the accident, and with a plop, she knelt on the roadside, kowtowed 3 times, and tears flowed down. Mom and Dad, your daughter is here to see you. Ning Ning and I are doing well. Xia's Haijin murmured to herself, with infinite emotions and words in her heart that she wanted to express. Before her parents had the accident, she was also a cheerful and lively little girl, loved by others. Although her life was very hard, she never felt inferior, because she had her parents who loved her behind her. But after her parents got into trouble, everything changed. She and her 2-year-old brother suddenly became orphans. Although they had grandparents, they were not as good as their biological parents. Later, Grandpa also got into trouble, leaving Grandma alone to protect them. Li Yuan looked at Xia's Haijin, who was trembling, and sighed in his heart. This treasure girl must be very upset at this moment. He silently placed the 3 kinds of fruits on the curb, lit a cigarette, stuck it in the soil, and then opened the moutai and sprinkled it all in front of the fruits, with the moutai bottle placed next to it. Li Yuan took 3 steps back and came to the position side by side with Xia's Haijin. He also knelt on his knees and kowtowed 3 times. Xia's Haijin stared at Li Yuan kowtowed to his parents. There were thousands of words in his heart, but he couldn't say them. He just kept crying. Li Yuan held Xia's Haijin's little hand and said seriously. Uncle and Aunt Haijin and I are here to see you. She is a good girl. Please rest assured that your spirits in heaven will love her and make her happy for the rest of her life. Xia's Haijin was very moved when she heard Li Yuan's words. She didn't expect that Li Yuan would do this for her. Next to the Land Rover, Yu Jiang looked at the scene and said to Li Zixia with emotion. Brother, you must love this girl very much. Li Zixia was also stunned by Li Yuan's actions. In the past few days, she naturally knew about Xia's Haijin's family situation, but she never expected that Li Yuan could do this. Li Zixia looked stunned. Yes, my brother loves Sister's Haijin very much, and Sister's Haijin loves my brother too. Yu Jiang nodded. At this moment, Li Yuan's position in his heart was greatly elevated. Being able to travel thousands of miles for his girlfriend and do this is enough to reflect Li Yuan's sincerity and heart. Li Yuan pulled Xia's Haijin up and gently comforted her. Haijin, don't cry. If the spirits of uncle and aunt in heaven can see you, they must hope that you can smile happily at this moment, embrace the future, and embrace life. Xia's Haijin stopped crying and stared at Li Yuan with red eyes. Deep feelings gathered in her heart. Even if there were thousands of words, she only said one serious sentence. Li Yuan, thank you. Li Yuan smiled faintly, hugged Xia's Haijin in his arms, and whispered, Grandma and Ning Ning are still waiting for us at home. Let's go back quickly. Yes, Yazhijin wiped her tears, forced a smile on her face, looked at the simple memorial items placed by Li Yuan again, turned around and got in the car. The mountain road was rugged and winding. After driving for more than 40 minutes, we finally arrived at a small town. This town is not very prosperous. From a distance, it is also small but complete. There are people coming and going in the market, and red flags are fluttering in the wind on the campus. Li Yuan, Zixia, Ningning is in elementary school in this town, which is 7 or 8 miles away from Grandma's house. Every day, Grandma accompanies Ningning and walks here together to go to school in the town. Xiazhijin introduced to Li Yuan he with a smile. I also went to elementary and junior high school in this town before, and then passed the high school entrance examination to Jinjiang No. 1 Middle School, where I spent 3 years of high school. Li Zixia exclaimed in admiration, "Sisters Hijin, you are so amazing, I feel like I can't keep up with the class now. My brother wants me to go to a tutoring class. Hee, I think if Sisters Hijin can tutor me often, my grades will definitely improve a lot." Xiazhijin nodded with a smile, "Zixia, the university courses are not busy, I can come to tutor you often in the future. I hope you don't think I'm stupid. Sisters Hijin, be more confident, you are a top student from a 985 university, I dream of getting into such a university." Li Zixia smiled, "Then I'll trouble Sisters Hijin in the future. I asked my brother to tutor me, but he always ignored me and was very perfunctory." Li Yuan was speechless. He wanted to tutor Li Zixia, but he really couldn't. He had almost forgotten all those math and physics and chemistry questions. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 220. After being reborn, he graduated from high school directly. Later, he was busy writing novels and making money, and did not study seriously. Taking advanced mathematics classes now is like listening to a book from heaven. Now, he still has the ability to tutor Li Zixia, who is already in high school. Li Yuan glared at the quirky Li Zixia. "Zixia, I find that you are getting more and more courageous. You dare to talk about your brother and me." Li Zixia quickly leaned against Xiazhijin and said with a smile, "Brother, I have sister-in-law's Hijin now. You can't bully me anymore." Xiazhijin pursed her lips and smiled softly. The gloom in her heart gradually dissipated, and laughter resumed again. "People, you have to look forward." During the conversation between the three of them, they soon arrived at Jinjiazhuang, where Xiazhijin's grandmother's house was located. Xiazhijin's mother's surname was Chen, and all people in Zhuangzi were also surnamed Chen. As far as Li Yuan could see, Jinjiazhuang was not big, with only 20 or 30 households. Compared with the rural areas in northern Anhui, the population was much smaller. This may be due to the low population density in mountainous areas. At this time, there were very few cars, especially in remote mountainous areas like Jinjiazhuang. When the Land Rover suddenly appeared in Jinjiazhuang, the villagers in the village looked at this big guy curiously and started talking about it. "Is this a car? Looks a bit grand. Has anyone in our village bought a car? The license plate number is from Shancheng City. Which Guawazi bought the car? Look, someone got out of the car. Hey, he's a tall, handsome guy. Why does that girl look familiar? A bit like Mrs. Chen's niece?" Xiazhijin looked at the chattering villagers in the mountain village, and suddenly felt a little shy about her hometown. She held Li Yuan's hand slightly nervously and pointed to a tile-roofed house nearby. "Li Yuan, that house is my grandmother's house. I have been living here since my father and mother passed away." Li Yuan's eyesight was very good, and he looked in the direction pointed by Xiazhijin. There were 3 houses with red bricks and blue tiles and a large courtyard. In the yard, there was an old lady who was past her 60s and a little boy who was dressed simply. Those should be Xiazhijin's grandmother and younger brother. Li Yuan followed Xia's Haijin, and behind him was Yu Jiang driving a Land Rover, driving carefully on the path in front of the door. Some villagers in Qinjiazhuang took the initiative to come up and say hello. You are Ajin. Aren't you studying in college away from home? Why are you back home now? A farmer over 50 years old, slightly short in stature and with tan skin came forward to say hello. Xia's Haijin said with a smile, Uncle, during the National Day holiday, I will go home to see Grandma and Anning. Chen Qiushi looked at Li Yuan. Li Yuan was very tall, half smaller than himself. He was dressed like a city dweller. He looked at Xia's Haijin with some confusion. Ajin, who is this young man? Xia's Haijin glanced at Li Yuan secretly and replied shyly, Uncle, this is my boyfriend Li Yuan. Chen Qiushi was stunned when he heard Xia's Haijin's refreshing introduction. He remembered that the girl in front of him had just entered college this year, and she had brought her boyfriend home just over a month ago. Li Yuan quickly took out soft china and handed over a cigarette. Uncle, have a cigarette. He took out the lighter again and lit a fire. Chen Qiushi took the cigarette handed over by Li Yuan, looked at Li Yuan carefully again, and nodded secretly. Li Yuan's height and appearance alone seemed to match Xia's Haijin very well. Young man, your accent doesn't sound like you're from a mountain city. Where are you from? Li Yuan smiled and said, Uncle, my hometown is from Hubei province, and now I have settled in Shanghai. Hearing that Li Yuan was in the magic city, Chen Qiushi's heart moved and his smile became more kind. Modu, then you are from a big city. Li Yuan smiled, neither objecting nor admitting. Chen Qiushi added, Young man, Ajin is a good girl, you have to treat her well. Li Yuan nodded quickly, Don't worry, uncle, I will do it. Chen Qiushi smiled and said, Go back quickly, Ajin's grandmother is still waiting for you. After the middle-aged man left, Li Yuan looked at Xia's Haijin and their eyes met. Xia's Haijin pursed her lips and snickered, explaining. Li Yuan, this uncle is not my biological uncle. He is from the same grandmother as my mother. He has always been in his hometown and often took care of me and Ning Ning when we were young. Li Yuan understood instantly. He grew up in a rural area and knew the situation very well. Along the way, besides the uncle just now, I met several more people. Honey, it's the National Day holiday, so I'll go home and take a look. His name is Li Yuan, he is my college classmate and my boyfriend. Well, I miss home, so I'll come back and visit. He is my boyfriend and he will accompany me home during the National Day holiday. When Xia's Haijin met people along the way, she shyly introduced them. Li Yuan held Xia's Haijin's hand and could feel that her palms were sweating. It could be seen that she was very nervous. If you think about it, you can understand that it takes a lot of courage for a girl who has just turned 18, whose parents have been dead for many years, and who just goes to college to bring her boyfriend home. Along the way, Li Yuan kept smiling, offering cigarettes to everyone he met, and calling uncle and uncle non-stop, leaving a good impression. And rural areas do have the habit of liking to watch the excitement, especially in relatively closed remote mountain villages, where all the clans have the same surname and are related to each other, so naturally they are very curious about what kind of boyfriend Xia's Haijin brought. Before Li Yuan, Xia's Haijin, and the Land Rover returned home, more than a dozen children and women were already following behind them. Li Yuan was sharp-eyed and could even hear their conversation. Ajin, this girl, has just started college, how come she has a boyfriend and brought him home? This boy looks pretty good, tall, and is a good match for Ajin. They drove here, and the car doesn't look cheap. The boy's family conditions should be very good. Ajin and her brother lost their parents when they were young, so it's good to find a rich family, so that they can help Anning find a wife in the future. Ajin suddenly brought a boy home, and her uncles should have rushed back after receiving the news. Ajin was very well behaved at home, why did she bring her boyfriend home when she just started college? Being well behaved at home does not necessarily mean being well behaved at school. Girls nowadays are very good at pretending. The girl in our village Chen Lao's family is like that. Xia's Haijin held Li Yuan's hand and came to the door of the house. She pushed the door open and looked at the figure she had relied on since she was a child. Tears flowed down her face. "Grandma, Aning, I'm back." The little boy in the yard rubbed his eyes after seeing Xia's Haijin's figure. He seemed to be unbelievable. After confirming it again, he ran over quickly and rushed into Xia's Haijin's arms, speaking excitedly. "Sister, you're back. Aning misses you so much." Xia's Haijin's grandmother also came over, grabbed Xia's Haijin's hand, looked at her granddaughter who was crying excitedly, and wiped her tears with her yellow and dry hands. "Baby, why are you back now?" Because there is no telephone or mobile phone at home, Xia's Haijin did not tell her grandmother in advance that she was coming back. Xia's Haijin smiled and explained, "It's the National Day holiday, I miss home a little, so I came back to see." The old lady in her 60s looked at Li Yuan, and her turbid eyes suddenly became much clearer. She looked at Xia's Haijin and asked, "Baby, who is this young man?" In front of her closest grandmother, Xia's Haijin looked a little nervous and said shyly, "Grandma, his name is Li Yuan, my college classmate and my boyfriend." "Baby, what does boyfriend mean?" The old lady did not understand the meaning of boyfriend. Xia's Haijin secretly glanced at Li Yuan, her heart pounding, pinching the corner of her clothes, and answered in a low voice, "It's just like the relationship between father and mother." The old lady understood now, her body trembled suddenly, almost fell down, and her tone was a little trembling. "Ajin, are you married?" Xia's Haijin hurriedly shook her head, "Not yet, we just went to college." The old lady looked up and down at Li Yuan again, and nodded with satisfaction. "Ajin, Xiao Li, come in and sit down first." Li Yuan looked at the old lady who was still strong with a smile, and said with a smile, "Grandma, I bought some things, I'll go and move them down first." Li Yuan looked at the little boy who looked a bit like Xia's Haijin, with very white skin and looked a little weak, touched his head, and smiled. "Ning Ning, brother brought you a lot of delicious food, come with me, pick it out, do you like it?" After Li Yuan finished speaking, he hurried out of the yard and prepared to move down all the gifts he bought. Xia's Haining was touched on the head by Li Yuan, and her body trembled, as if she was a little shy.